21st of October, 2025. I was cushioned within a neatly comforting tomb of snow and ice, a mix of water and sleet that I swam in. It wasn't cold, not at all. In fact, the icy tomb felt like a safe spread of bed sheets rather than biting flakes of cold. And aside from the thermodynamic comfort, the incredible array of stars above me lit up both the sky and my soul. I sat there, nearly solaced, until a couple of friends of mine picked me up on a motor sled and we began to skate the nostalgic icy wasteland. We drove until the sounds of launching snow broke through the motor sled's engine, and along with it, the visual of a cargo train, transporting incredibly large shipping containers behind it. The train wasn't tied to any tracks, and the mist of displaced snow where the vehicle met the ground didn't help clue us to how it was moving, especially with such velocity. As the magnificently large snow train rapidly approached our minuscule sled, we got to see the details of the locomotive. On the sides of each cargo, large graphics of different people's faces lay. They were high quality, and the colors only dulled by the dark greeny brown of the metal canvas they were painted on. If you hear bells in the background, that's my cat, who is now wants to sit in my lap. Okay. Where was I? Alright. They were high quality, and the colors only dulled by the dark greeny brown of the metal canvas they were painted on. From what we could gather on a motorized sled, the train seemed to be transporting very large loads of ash, dark and colorless. And as the train pulled away from us, veering to the left and becoming enveloped by the Arctic night, it let go of the cargo that was at the end. The cargo's painted face was that of a man, dark-skinned with black hair. However, whether it was done accidentally or intentionally, it was lost on us. And upon agreeing to our confusion, we continued on our forward trajectory. Eventually, the three of us got to a dimly lit rustic town that seemed to, maybe in the summer, be more coastal, as the snow-covered ice that we sled on was welcomed by a low jetty-like deck. The entire town was nearly comforting, an oasis in the endless Arctic circle, lit by the yellow lights and what flooded out of the occupied homes and buildings. The snow was light enough to not even be recognized. And, as mentioned before in my dreams, I'll never miss an opportunity to have some fun in the snow. So I balled up the tiny frozen tears and had a snowball fight with my two friends. Afterwards, the scene changed. It was an early stage of twilight, and I was walking in familiar suburbia in what felt like the genesis of a summer evening. I was strolling with a friend that I do not know. We marched on a sidewalk that ran parallel to an avenue and approached a roundabout. We turned left and saw a man walking his dog, heading in the opposite direction to us. Although his hood kept his face in shade, I was able to recognize it. He bore the same physiognomy as the man on the cargo train, specifically on the container that was let go of. What confused me the most was his hostility. He acted very twitchy and apathetic and approached with the movement of an unstoppable force. I backed up, concerned, and my friend stated that he was a copy. I put clues together regarding that comment, and we began to act. The both of us looked down on our phones and dialed a number we had on a card. This card was like an ID, and it contained, printed on the laminate, a specific number that registered us. My phone was low on charge, so I called the number with haste. A man with a deep British voice answered the phone. I inquired on how I would get my name out of the system, as if I had signed up for their services in the past and wanted out. In my mind, this would mean I wouldn't have any copies of me made like the man I saw earlier. He was taken aback by this, surprised that the call wasn't regarding somebody else. I assumed that meant that people had called him regarding hostility of the clones that they had made, and with how little concern I raised with the inquiry, he may have somehow read my question as selfish. He dodged the request quite a bit, which frustrated me, especially with the low charge my phone was on, and I told him that my phone was on 1%, and as I flipped the card in my hand around, I said I could give him my card number if he needed it. The phone call left me on autopilot, and as I stated that sentence, I realized I had walked into a beige rocky cliff face. Not very high, so in fact barely a cliff, but a shortened version of one would fit the best description. It looked as if the limestone rocks had been placed there by people, so not a natural facade either. My friend noticed my qualms regarding my phone's battery life and offered their portable charger. However, the cable they had didn't fit with my phone, and all they had, as they reached into their backpack, was a wireless charging bay, the same wood one that I have next to my bed. Despite its discomfort, I used it, holding the phone awkwardly and pressing it down into the charging spot with my thumb. With the battery issue solved, to the best of our intuition, I got back to haggling the British man on the phone, and asked, with no turbulence, to remove me from their system, and finally the man reluctantly agreed. My friend had also managed to remove themselves, giving me a nod amidst my call. I now found myself in a new scene. I was with my dad buying pants for my mother. We saw a pair at the end of an aisle and decided on them. They were short and likely used for sports and exercise. After we had made the purchase, we left the light, bright wood store and found ourselves in a shopping center. The ceiling was high and supported by an array of large windows, pointing down on the white flooring, allowing the cloudless blue and sun to cover the interior in light. The oddest part of this scene change was that I knew we were in some sort of parallel or alternate universe. It was my dad and I in a nondescript American city. We still had Australian accents, but in this timeline, I guess we had moved and lived there. We approached another store. From the corner closed shop we left, being faced with two options. An open kiosk in the middle of the center's walkway, and to the right another store, sharing the same light wood texturing as the previous one. This one, however, was lit with a much more cozy yellow than the other's blinding whites. We split and went to both stores. He handed me cash to make the payments at the same time and expedite the process. I made a mental note that he was likely giving me the cash to save me the embarrassment of having a card, but going to a store where the card was not accepted. This, I assume, landed the universe being set in the early 2000s or late 90s, with the cards not being as nearly universal as today. Despite this, our ages remained as they are now. While at the register, buying the item, I noticed the person behind the counter was my cousin, but not in this universe. I handed him a $5 note, Australian note despite the shopping centre's location, and thought to myself that what I was buying would be way more than $1.50 in price nowadays. Thanking my kind of cousin at the register, I put on a fake American accent as a little game for myself, trying to see if anyone would notice my act. No one questioned it, so I guess perhaps it was solid. The change I got was also in Australian currency, $3.50, and I left with good timing to my father. As we continued our walk, I stuffed the wallet with coins I had received. I told him that I should put the coins in my car to save my wallet for being so thick from the cash. Time had passed when we had found ourselves returning home. The sky was nearly overwhelmed by a summer night, with only a little bit of Ra peeking through the horizon's curtains. We were outside our house in the driveway, and I was once again with my father, asking him questions. I asked if he was dreaming as well, but I didn't want to be so forward in case it leads to some existential crisis. And I asked him, "Do you know you're dreaming?" There was a long pause, and my father stated after some time, as if recalling the last thing he could remember. Felix touched the grey serpent's eye, and then I awoke. Oh my god, bro. Oh my god. There was actually a whole nother section to this dream, but for time's sake, because this is 3 pages. How long have we been recording for? 30 minutes. Yeah, this is already longer. This dream is already longer than like the whole video of my first one that I uploaded. Yeah. And there's a whole nother section. I wrote it weirdly, because when I woke up, I opened up my Dream Journal Notes app and just recorded it as crude, essentially dot points. And there was another section. I wrote this, you ready? There was something else here. Some sort of school project we were doing at a harbour at night. My friend opted to use AI for it all. All 3 minutes and 39 of visual and audio. She even commented on how she was being lazy and would prefer not to use AI. When I watched hers, I laughed and commented on the over-exaggerated amount of Teslas that were in the video. I said I'd be doing all my work myself, and even for the different voices, just tune it myself with pitch shifters. That happened between buying things with my dad to being home at our driveway. And I think there was another section that I didn't write down where I was driving some car, some like, it was very boxy of a car, like early 70s. And how for that ending, Felix touched the grey serpent's eye. No idea what the fuck that means. Felix, me, by the way. And I'm just confused on why my brain decided that would be interesting. I have no idea what that means. Let's see, anything else to comment on? I guess we could go back to the Shadow Man. It's so cringe. I don't like calling him that. I very, very skeptical about all that, and find it very cringe when I talk about him with such professionalism. I find it off-putting, and if anything, makes this whole channel seem unscrupulous, maybe. Anyway, yeah, I haven't seen him. Long story short, I haven't actually been able to have many really lucid dreams, because a lot of the time I've been spending my days at uni and then having to get up early, which means I'm not able to write down any dreams I have, which makes dreams less lucid, which is upsetting. I did have a shit ton of dreams since last upload. It's just this one specifically, I felt was lucid enough, well, I guess memorable enough to fully write down, despite how long it was. Yeah, not much else to add. My cat kind of interrupted my recording, which is fine. She's currently in the corner of a room, staring at the floor. Zula? What are you doing? Might be a bug there or something. What are you looking at? I'll get my phone so you can look at this. What are you looking at? Is there anything even there? What? Oh, that's enough cat footage. Yeah, have fun. See you in the next upload.